Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with the words you fling.
What's up, everybody? This is Tom Taylor with South China Morning Post, joined today by Kevin Lee, the Motown Phenom himself. Kevin, leaping right into things here. It's been a while since we've seen you in the octagon. You've obviously been sidelined with some pretty significant injuries. You've had the double knee surgery. You just mentioned on Instagram though that you're on the mend. You're able to train again. How does that feel to be back on the mats? You alluded to it in the Instagram post that you're feeling pretty happy about that. It must be a major relief for you.
Yeah, it feels a lot better. After my last fight, I did ask for a little bit of a break, and I felt like I kind of needed it. But I didn't necessarily think I was going to get it like that. You know, not being able to do what I do, and not being able to train and not being able to even run or jog or do any of the things that I'm used to doing since I was like 16. Now that I can do them again, I kind of feel more like myself. I feel more, I wake up with a little more pep in my step and feel a little better. For sure.
Obviously, nobody wants to go through anything like that. Nobody wants a double knee surgery. But would you say there's a little bit of a silver lining for you in the way that it's kind of renewed your passion for the sport?
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that, I think my issues with the sport have always been mental. You know, I think a lot of people can kind of see that too. You know, physically, I can keep up with anybody in the world. But in some of my fights, there will be like mental gaps. So by me having to take a step back in this last year and only focus just on the mental side, I think it's going to pay like really big dividends. It's going to be big. And I look at like so many people when they come back off their ACL surgeries, they come back as like a brand new person. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. I feel like everybody who has been at the top has gone through a major surgery and has gotten better since then. So I'm trying to follow in that footstep.
What would you say you've learned about yourself in this time away from the sport? You mentioned the mental growth. I mean, how have you grown mentally during this time away?
I've been a lot more aware, that's for sure. I feel a lot more conscious is a weird word, but I feel a lot more aware of my body, aware of what's going on, and aware of like what I want to do. You know, like I had been on such a roll for so long and doing so many fights and back to back. I've got 15 fights in the UFC at a young age. So I just kind of kept going and kept going and kept going without really stopping and thinking about it and really smelling the roses. So now I'm more aware of myself and my actions. That's for sure.
It sounds like this was a real opportunity for mental growth for you, though. But I'm sure, it was obviously very uncomfortable and taxing physically in a lot of ways. What was the recovery from these surgeries like for you?
Yeah, I'm still going through it. It's fucking brutal. It's hard. It's hard work. You know, it's not, people think recovery is just kind of laying back and putting your leg up and turning on Netflix. It's hard. The first month was just nothing but pain. And then after that, it's like every little movement and from being an athlete for so many years and just being able to do things, just get up, run, it's nothing. Get up, jump, it's nothing. Now that when I couldn't do that and it really hurt to do that, it's more, it's taxing, for sure.
Now that you're able to train again, you're back on the mats. Obviously, it's going to take some time to shake off all the rust that they talk about. But I mean, do you have a time frame in mind for your return to the octagon? Is there any dates that you're kind of hopeful about?
Yeah, I want to do this summer. We're kind of teetering back and forth, whether it's June or July. But I think this summer sounds good. I know the UFC always puts on a big event July 4th. So that first week of July might work out perfect. If not that, then maybe June and host my own card. It all depends on who the opponent is and who we're going up against.
Right. You mentioned the opponent. That's obviously a question a lot of fans are going to have. Is there anybody on your radar, any options on the menu that look particularly appetizing for you? You mentioned the Tony Ferguson rematch on Twitter a little while ago. Is that at the top of the list for you? What's your optimal choice?
Yeah, that's top of the list. Is Tony Ferguson. I think that fight makes a whole lot of sense. From all standpoints, really, especially when you look at where this division is and where it's going to. Us running it back makes a whole lot of sense, and one of us is going to stay, one of us is going to leave. So I think Tony Ferguson is top of the list. I don't really even have a close second, to be honest with you.
Well, there's certainly a lot of options even beyond Tony. The division is really heating up right now. You've got Khabib leaving, you've got Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira on nice win streaks. Michael Chandler just made a splash in his debut. Conor McGregor seems to want to, fight fairly regularly again, which is a pretty new thing. I want to talk about all of that. I want to start with Khabib, though. He wants to retire. He's made that pretty clear. Dana kind of has a different opinion of things, doesn't quite want to let him go. Where do you stand on that one? Should Khabib be allowed to ride off into the sunset, or would you like to see him fight again?
Yeah, I think the man should go ahead and retire. They should let him retire, let him enjoy himself, and let him take his mind off the sport. If that's what and Dana has said this before, once a guy starts talking about retirement, this isn't the sport you want to stick around with. You should go ahead and do it and let the division go on. Let us keep working. Let us keep, let somebody else hold that belt for a little bit. He'll be back. There's no doubt that he'll be back, but let him be missed for a little bit. I think that's the best option.
Mm-hmm. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, as they say, right? So shifting gears a little bit here, I want to talk about the Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor fight. You were, of course, paying attention to that yourself. What did you think of Dustin Poirier's big win in that fight?
Yeah, it was a good one. That was a good one. Again, everybody's going to talk about what McGregor did wrong, but I look at it for all the good things that Dustin did do. His defense was on point. His wrestling mixing in with his striking. It looked like his cardio was great. So fights like that make me excited to come back. That's for sure, because it's like he's like a brand new challenge almost.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that people are talking a lot about what Conor did wrong. That's been one of the main topics of conversation since that fight. Yeah. Do you feel like he maybe lost some of his luster just because of the way he lost? He was known as this fantastic striker, and then, down he goes from a punch. Did that strip away some of his appeal, you think, just based on the nature of the loss?
I would say yes. Normally it would be yes, but no. I feel like that's kind of what everybody been wanting to see. Conor, he stole a page out of Floyd's book to where, people pay to see him lose. So I think it was kind of satisfying for a lot of people, and they're gonna want to see it again. It's like you get that first little bite of something that feels good. You're gonna want it again. So if anything, he might be on a chopping block just to keep losing, and people gonna pay to see it. People still gonna want to see that. So as long as it's something for people to see, it's something there.
Well, I certainly don't want to have you talking about Conor McGregor all night, but one more quick question on that topic. What do you think the future holds for him from this point? Is it the rematch with Dustin? Is that the obvious choice?
I think that'd be stupid. If they do that, I understand it. And I get that Conor gets those special privileges just to come back and kind of call his own shots. And, he gets to avenge all his losses right away. Nobody else in the game gets to do that. Personally, I don't think it would be the best move for him. I think he should come back and fight Nate Diaz. And then after that, me and him can rumble at the end of the year or something like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. But, if he wants to fight Dustin again, by all means, it's not going to look good for him. I don't think there's not many examples of a guy getting knocked out bad, coming back in the immediate rematch and winning that rematch. He's probably just going to get more of the same. So I think if Dana and those guys are smart, they're going to try and squeeze him for a little bit more. So it makes sense to get some different style matchups in there too. Even though he did just lose to a striker, I think people still want to see what he can do as far as like fighting a complete wrestler too.
Mm-hmm. Another lightweight contender everyone's talking about these days is Michael Chandler. He, of course, came over from Bellator, knocked out Dan Hooker in his debut. What are your thoughts on his performance on that debut fight? Did he prove himself as a top guy? Was that just a favorable style matchup? How do you grade that debut he had?
I think he has incredible timing for when he's made his debut and when he's kind of been on the up and up, because everybody else, the rest of the top 10, we all coming off losses. So yeah, he looks real good off of it. Am I impressed? Not by any means. He beat Dan Hooker. It's not like he it's not like he really went out there and crushed the world a world-class guy, I think, or a guy that's more on the up and up. I think Dan Hooker fought a terrible fight. I think the moment got to him, and Chandler is kind of reaping from that. But I'm not impressed by any means. Yeah, if they want to keep shooting Chandler up there to the top, that's cool with me. That is cool with me. He's kind of easy pickings. So, he's old, he's small, and that'd be good.
Well, we've covered a few of the other lightweight contenders, but another really big name is making a comeback. I'm talking about you, of course. You just mentioned that the summer is the targeted time frame for you. Where would you say you fit into all of this craziness in the lightweight division at this stage in your career? I mean, where do you land, coming back in the current lightweight landscape?
Yeah, people overlook it, but I'm gonna take over the game when I come back. I just am. I've been very, very quiet through this last year, very quiet. And it's for a reason, when they see me, it's gonna. I just don't see nobody else all these guys that you keep naming. I just don't see none of them holding a candle to what I can bring to the table, and the type of things I can do in this game, in all assets really. So I think it's not gonna be good for the rest of the guys. That's for sure. Sorry about that. Somebody else just pulled up to my house.
No worries at all. I want to talk more about you in a second. I just want to ask you one quick question about George St. Pierre, who you're, of course, quite familiar with. You spent some time in Montreal with him. He's a guy that's still linked to a comeback, even after all of these years away from the cage. He doesn't seem to have a ton of interest himself in fighting again, but, he's talked about as a potential opponent for Khabib, and then, of course, Kamaru Usman after last weekend. Yeah. Where do you stand on that? Is he going to fight again? Should he fight again, or should we let him go? Is it time to stop holding him hostage?
I think George probably will fight again. I think it's just going to really, really take the right fight. And that's going to be very hard to do. I think it will end up having to be somebody like Khabib. I don't necessarily see him fighting Kamaru Usman. Even though that would be a good stylistic matchup, I just don't see it being enough for George to come back. It's going to take a lot for George to come back. His legacy is so cemented, but I know that he's constantly training and he's still got that itch. And once you got the itch, you got to scratch it one more time, because he at one point he's going to end up 45, and unable to do it completely. So I think he'll regret it if he doesn't, and I think he kind of knows that.
Fair enough.
Even though I don't want to speak for the man. Don't want to speak.
Fair enough. I think, you're entitled to weigh in on this. You know him quite well. Circling back to you, just a few more questions for you here, Kevin. What does the perfect 2021 look like for you? How many times do you want to fight? Where do you want to be when this year's over, and so on? I mean, what does the perfect year look like for you?
2 fights. Two fights this year. This summer, then this winter. And then I'm gonna show everybody again that this division is mine. That these guys can all fight for the title. I do think Charles Oliveira should fight for the title, but he's gonna be holding on to my title.
You mentioned Oliveira. He should be. I mean, who's the opponent for him if he's fighting for the title? Should it be Dustin Poirier? Should it be Michael Chandler? Yeah.
I think it's Poirier. I think Poirier and Oliveira make all the sense. I don't see anybody else who even comes close, to be honest with you. Chandler is one fight in, and he just didn't fight a top guy. So it's Poirier. Go ahead, let the man have his dues. He's put in enough work for it, and so is Oliveira. So they need to fight.
You've already made this quite clear over the course of this conversation, but evidently the goal for you is still the lightweight title. How confident are you that before all is said and done, you're going to have that belt wrapped around your waist?
Extremely confident. I know it's a matter of time. Really, it's just a matter of when. It's never really been an if. It's just only been a win, and I think anybody who really follows the sport knows that too.
And last question for you, kind of following up on that. You've had a really long career for such a young guy. There have been some ups, some downs, some huge wins, tough losses, the layoffs, and so on and so forth. But when you finally do win that lightweight title, Dana White's wrapping the belt around your waist. When you envision that moment, how's that going to feel for you?
Yeah,
terrible,
Yeah, it'll be a culmination of a whole lot of hard work, a whole lot of fucking pain and anguish, and I think people will know that. I think people have seen me grow up in the octagon, literally, and they've been along with me for this ride, these ups and downs, like you talk about. So to see me come out on the better end of that is it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. I'm only 28 years old. I'm just now starting to hit my peak, or starting to peak. They say a man peaks at about 32. And when you look at all these other lightweight contenders, they're all about that age, about 31, 32. So once that day comes, it's gonna be amazing.
Amazing. Well, as I said, that's all I have for you, Kevin, but I really appreciate the time. And I think I can safely speak for everyone, and say that we're all very excited to have you back in the lightweight contendership picture, and then see you back in the cage soon.
My guy, appreciate you.